So this episode is going to be wage slavery survival tips, and specifically about the difference between collective and individual action, right? That's my idea. And first of all, I think we should talk about some king shit, alright? Do you remember Dad's story about how he quit Metalworks?
I think I vaguely remember it. Does it, it has something to do with someone that he didn't like? I don't know.
Yeah, so, I don't remember. Obviously, this is not a tip. It's just a fun little story. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta fucking do, right? So,
yeah.
I don't remember what his boss did to him or whatever, but he quit by going into his boss's office, yelling at him, and shoving him over. So, we're talking about fucking dealing with shitty bosses, right? That's what we're gonna be talking about. And obviously, he was in a position where he was going to quit anyways. Some people deserve to be physically adjusted, let's just say, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're abusing your position of power to, be a piece of shit human being to those around you.
Yeah, obviously.
I think that you could deserve.
These are going to be tips on how to keep your job, but make it better for you. So, don't shove your boss over, but also at the same time, if you do, mad respect.
Definitely. Not advice, but definitely pretty cool if you do that, I will not lie.
Yeah.
Definitely something I think we all want to do.
Yeah. It's, sometimes...
every day.
It's not like he's gonna fight back against Dad, let's be honest.
No.
Okay. So, I've got a bunch of notes here. Hopefully we can have some banter in between all these notes, but I just want to start off by saying there's two ways to fight back against your boss, ultimately, right? There's collective action, unionizing, petitioning, organizing slowdowns, the sort of thing that involves you organizing amongst your coworkers, right? Collective action. But then there are also individual actions that you could take. And I'm going to go into what these things can be and some examples of those. But these actions are what I really want to talk about today. Because, first off, collective action should always be the goal, right? That's how you get shit done better, is through you collectivizing with your coworkers and shoving it to your boss, right? If you want to improve the lives of yourself and your coworkers, short of a fucking proletarian revolution, which is ultimately the goal, right? Nothing really beats having a union with a contract, because that's a sort of legal boundary that the boss has to abide by, right?
Yeah.
But all that being said, unionizing your workplace is incredibly difficult. But not only is it difficult, it can be set back at a moment's notice. You get fired for doing this. There's a bunch of shit. It takes time, it's difficult, it involves relying on other people, and it just doesn't work out a lot of the time, right? And if you're dealing with abusive management, then you need some relief as soon as possible. You can't wait a year for a union contract to be negotiated, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And living where we live, it's very hard to organize a union, dude. The laws, the environment around what people think about unions, it is not easy.
No, not at all. Especially if it's a profession that isn't stereotypically or conventionally unionized.
Exactly. Also, corporate unionizing is even harder.
Yeah.
Because if they have a store a town over from you, they could take those workers and scab you pretty easily.
Yeah, or fire the whole store and use the other store to train people.
Exactly.
You, right?
Exactly.
There's always solutions for a corporate structure that up until you can get the law involved, which is very rare.
Exactly.
And then far in between. The Starbucks thing was a very large victory for unions, I'd say, but probably not going to happen too often.
Exactly, yes. And so, we want to talk about individual actions that you can take, right, to help yourself. But also, they can show your coworkers what it means to stand up for yourself, right? These collective action and individual actions, they work with each other. Your goal should be to unionize your workplace if you're really into this shit, right? But you taking individual actions can really inspire your coworkers, and it can make you closer with your coworkers. So, if everyone hates a certain manager or boss, and you are known to tell that boss off, stand up for yourself against the boss everybody fucking hates, your coworkers will love you for that.
Yeah, it kind of like garners a certain level of respect, right?
Of course. And if eventually you're going to try and attempt unionizing your workplace, your coworkers will see you as the guy who stands up against the boss, right? And you will need them on your side. So all of this is to say, we're talking about individual actions, but don't think of individual actions you can take as individualistic, right? It's not for you and against your coworkers. It can and often does work in tandem with collective action, and I'll sort of explain how that looks exactly. Quick disclaimer for these tips. I think all of these tips that I have are for people who have some sort of job security or do not care if you have to find a new job, right? So if you're working minimum wage or close to it, I'm sure like the reward of having a more tolerable work life vastly outweighs the risk of losing your shitty ass job, right? So these tips can definitely work for you. Secondly, I think these tips are more for abusive bosses, right? And so I don't really recommend these strategies if you like your boss, unless you really have no other choice, you know?
Yeah, because there are things you wouldn't want to do to an individual, but things you have to do in order to, like, get the things that you need, right?
Of course. So, the first tip that I have that I really want to get into is how to only work the hours you consent to, right? You have experience with this.
Yeah.
So, this can be a real problem for, like, service industry fucking slaves, you know? Because often they only work you 6 or 5 hours, but they want you to work 7 or 8 days in a row. That's stupid shit. And if you only want to work 5 days a week, like most people only want to work 5 days a week, these are ways that you could accomplish that, right? So for the tips on how to work only the hours you consent to, I would say make it clear first that you will only work 5 days a week, right? So,
or whatever your desired amount of days are.
Exactly. So first, just tell your boss. Probably not before you get hired. Maybe wait until you're a little established, but just be like, hey man, I need only 5 days a week. When they schedule you 6 or more, or whatever you don't want, you could maybe let it slide once. You could say, hey, look, I told you I can't do 6 days without a day off. I'll work it this time, but please find another solution next time. You could be polite about it. Make it absolutely clear that you want the days that you want, and you aren't going to work more. Maybe let it slide once, say, I'll do it this time, right? If your boss still doesn't respect your schedule, and this will probably happen, call in sick. Pick your own day off. That's what I do. Pick your own day off. Say, you know what? I want Friday off this week. I'm just going to call in Friday. You don't have to admit why you called in. They will get the hint really quickly, And they'll figure out a better solution next time, because by calling in, you officially made their job a little bit harder. And that's the last thing that they want.
Absolutely. I mean, I literally did this. Yeah, he would schedule me for like a day after I had an established schedule, and then without asking me would just schedule me for an extra day. And so every once in a while I would do it, but the majority of the time I just fucking call out. And then eventually he just stopped doing that, because like Gage said, it makes his job harder, And then one day I'm talking to him in his office, and he's literally like, asking me if I can take a day, which I could. At the time I needed the day. And he's like, yeah, I know I can't just schedule you or call you in, because you'll just call out.
Yeah.
So like it genuinely becomes something that they recognize, and it's shitty that you have to do it in that way, but gaining that boundary with your boss is very valuable, even if it's not something that they like, because like ultimately if they don't respect that boundary, it bites them in the ass. So like they kind of are incentivized at that point to do so.
Exactly. Yep. That's what most of these tips are. Setting up boundaries and being consistent with them, right? So I also have an example. So I had made it clear to my manager that I would only work 5 days a week, right? I had gone through the same steps with him that I just talked about after he, inevitably did not respect my schedule. And after doing that, we had an understanding for a long time that he would not schedule me over 5 days, right? Kind of like you're saying.
Yeah.
Then, one week, I guess he was like feeling brave or something. He scheduled me 12 days in a row. Okay?
Jesus.
So I immediately marched to his office, and I was like, no, hell no, right? This is gonna happen. I think he gave me some shit about, some roundabout way of saying you have to just this once because I'm in a bind or whatever, Yeah. And so the next day, I told him, you know what? I need only 3 days a week from now on because of school. You should have seen the look on his face, man. He's like, okay, now I'm actually fucked. But, I think, like, I ended up working that double week. And then I had, like, a month of just 3-day weeks, And obviously I had the privilege of the time of being able to work less. So that strategy won't work for everyone. But, there's different ways you could do this. You could take all your vacation days the next week or something if you have the privilege of having those. You just have to condition your boss to not disrespect you. And that's, like, ultimately what these tips boil down to, is you have to train your boss like they're a toddler, If you do this, there are consequences.
I mean, it's literally like their job. They're incentivized to try to fuck you over in any way that they can in order to gain any small amount of income for their or like any small benefit for their company. So like if you can turn it around on them, then
exactly,
they have no choice, right?
Exactly.
Like if you're at least if you are a valued employee, then they can either fire you, lose a valuable employee, which makes their job much harder trying to find someone new, or they have to like do what you want for the most part. Not do what you want, but at least respect the things that you need.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, that's been successful for me and Gavin on how to, work the days that you want to. So my next tip is to just not be fake. And I'll explain what I mean here. Like, if your boss is being a dick to you, right? Do not be happy about it. Give them a death stare. Give them some sass. Explain why they are wrong, even if you completely comply, right? They tell you to do something extra, you can do it, but make sure you don't do it happily. Don't be fake, Show them, I am not okay with you doing this to me, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to say no. You just need to show them that you're not okay with it.
Give them some pushback, right?
Yes. Bosses,
make them think twice about it.
They're ultimately lazy and probably stressed about what their boss is trying to do to them, So give them an easier route. Don't be the easiest solution to their problem. If you're like quiet as a mouse and compliant about every extra piece of work they delegate to you, then you will receive all of that work. And guess what? You will not be compensated extra for it.
It's pretty much like the idea that you don't want to like volunteer for extra work at work. Like,
yes.
Like if you go above and beyond all the time, at least in my experience, then you going above and beyond becomes the bare minimum for you.
Yep.
And then now that you're known as being above and beyond, now you have to do that no matter what, and they're going to expect more out of you.
Yep.
So like you're rewarded with your good work with more shittier work instead of being actually rewarded.
And there's different levels to this, because if you go above and beyond for your coworkers, then that's amazing, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
So, but like, trust me, if you are giving an attitude to your boss about how they are treating you, you're going to create a healthier workplace even for yourself and your coworkers, because your coworkers are going to see what is possible and they'll follow your lead, right? Not only like will your coworkers be more likely to start standing up for themselves more, but you're conditioning your boss to think twice before being a dick to anybody.
Yeah, because if like not being a dick is easier than being a dick and then getting pushback, then they're gonna choose to not be a dick.
Exactly. And so I don't really have a specific example for this one because it's a constant thing you have to get used to doing. No one really likes having to be... If you're a good person, you don't really like having to be a dick back to somebody. You just want to be left alone to do your job. So you just want to go back to work and do your job and go home, but when someone is trying to take advantage of you, you have to condition yourself to like not be complacent with that. And it takes time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so one thing that I wanted to really like bring home for this whole episode, and it's a quote that says you need to show, it roughly is like you need to show your tyrant the danger line, right? And this is a quote that I honestly live by for everything. It comes from Lucy Parsons, and she was talking about how black people need to stand up to lynchings, which is obviously something infinitely worse than wage labor, right? However,
Yes.
like, the philosophy stays the same. If you don't show the person trying to take advantage of you the line that they, like, cannot cross, they'll never stop, right?
Yeah.
You have to stand up for yourself and put your foot down in a way that trains somebody to not cross the line.
If you don't draw the line, someone else will draw it for you, right?
Yes. So one specific example I could give, and this example is honestly kind of extreme. It probably doesn't fit for most people who are going to hear this. But, so me and you were both working at Applebee's in the kitchen. We're both slammed out of our minds, trying to survive, you know, cooking a ridiculous amount of food. Anyways, one manager is just being just horrible, you know, talking to us
Just
like we're dogs. That's the way I've explained it. She was talking to us like we were dogs.
Literally like we were dogs, yeah, like barking commands, not asking things of you like you tend to do to another adult human that you respect.
Yeah, and eventually, like, we got sick of it. So yeah, we told her to stop being a fucking bitch, and then we were just mean to her because she was treating us like dogs. And yeah, I mean, her boss apologized to us after that because it was wrong. And, like, obviously you can't just tell your boss. You can't cuss at your boss most of the time, right? But that's just an extreme example of sometimes what you might have to do, right?
Yeah, I think we should really emphasize Gage literally called the manager, not the main man, not the general manager, but the front of house manager, a bitch while she was yelling at me. Like, not figuratively, he literally told her to stop being a bitch. So
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're, like, shaking with anger because someone is abusing you, sometimes you just have to do it.
I mean, you don't have a choice a lot of the time, right? Like, you either do that or you just walk out, and I think everyone would agree doing that is better.
Yeah. Okay. My next tip is to stand up for your coworkers, right? And you can do this in 100 different ways. Most obvious way to do this is to just never talk shit about your coworkers to any sort of management, right?
Yeah.
I would say, like, never talk shit to any of your other coworkers, but if one of your coworkers is known to just be a bad person to your other coworkers, then, like, sure, you can shit talk them, right? But I would never talk shit about someone to the boss. Unless they do something extremely unsafe or something, or they're threatening another coworker. Obviously, safety should come first. But never engage. Because if you're with a job long enough, your boss will want to be your friend. And they'll want to talk shit with you. And it's just never engage with that, right?
Yeah, they're just going to use it against you. They're going to use it against the person that you're talking shit about. Like, it's just not... You should be building camaraderie with your coworkers, not selling them out to your boss.
Exactly. And another way to stand up for your coworkers is to tell them when you hear something about them from management, whether it be firsthand or secondhand or whatever. Like, I did this constantly. You know, I'd be like, hey man, I heard they're looking to schedule you different, or hey man, I heard they're trying to fire you, or anything along those lines. Always go to that person and tell them what you heard about them from management. Unless you can handle the problem yourself, which almost never happens, right? And, you know, eventually they'll come to you. They'll be like, hey, I heard management say this about you. You know? It sets up a better relationship.
Absolutely. And it's like it's a better environment to work in, one where you can trust your coworkers.
Exactly, yeah. And when someone like disobeys that trust, then you tell your coworkers who you still have that trust with, and nobody trusts them. Like, you fucked up, dude. You chose management over us. Like, no one is going to be your friend anymore.
For real.
And then another way you can help your coworkers is to literally help them with their job. So, like, if you're finished with your work and your coworker is struggling, you know, get in there and help them out. Like, I personally always work very hard at work. And that's like, not because I want to please my boss. At least not at these types of jobs. My new job is kind of different, you know. But I work hard, like, 1, because I want to get it done so I have an easier shift later, you know. And 2, because if I'm caught up, I can help others around me who are struggling. And, you know, I don't give a shit about the company or if the job gets done. But I give a lot of shit if my buddy beside me is drowning in work and I'm just chilling, you know?
Yeah.
You should get in there and start making closer relationships with your coworkers.
Absolutely. I mean, if your manager's not going to help them, you know?
Which they're probably not.
Like, fuck. No, they're definitely not going to, unless they're, like, a side manager who isn't respected and essentially is just another worker. Which I've had. I've had very cool managers that just...
Oh, absolutely.
Are workers more than managers. Like, my old kitchen manager, before he got injured and stopped working with us, like, he would hop in whenever things got busy, like, more than literally all the other managers put together would hop in on across the entire store. He would hop in more in the back of the house alone. So, like, there are managers that are absolutely allies, but still be wary.
Yeah, and take care of them, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. Like, if your manager is, like, genuinely doing what they can to take care of you and look out for you, do the same. And make sure that your coworkers know that they're like that, too.
Yeah. Another thing you can do is literally speak up for them when the time is right, you know? Sometimes this is a bad move, you know? Some coworkers have too much pride, or they're just extremely interested in just, like, being a goody two-shoes, which is fine, right? But if you have a good relationship with a coworker, and let's say they're a little more timid or something, and someone's giving them shit, you know? Give that person shit back, you know? You can speak up for them. And again, it just builds closer connections with the people who are in the same situation as you.
Yeah, and maybe next time they'll stand up for you.
Or they'll stand up for themselves, yeah, once they realize that you did
Totally.
and nothing happened to you. Again, this is just a way to create, like, a healthier work environment. It's never going to be, like, working these shitty minimum wage jobs or whatever, it's never going to be something where, like, it's actually a good work environment, you know?
No.
But you can make it better.
Do your best to at least not make it worse, right?
Yeah.
Do what you can.
Do you have any examples of, like, standing up for your coworkers?
I mean, I always help my coworkers if I can, like, you know.
Yeah. Like, okay, so I have a specific example, and again, this is an extreme example where most of you will not relate to, but one of our old managers was treating, because my girlfriend worked there too, treating my girlfriend poorly, and in a way where they weren't doing their job as a manager, you know, because some managers have a specific job where if something goes wrong, they have the power to fix it and you do not. So it's not like you can get around not using your manager because they're the only person with the power to fix the problem you're having, right?
Yeah.
And this guy wasn't doing his only job as a manager to fix the problem, right? So I had to go in there and talk to him very sternly, like, nobody gives a shit if you don't like them. Nobody gives a shit if you hate my girlfriend. Nobody gives a shit, bro. You have to do your job. You have to do your job to fix the problem when there's a problem, you know? And I had to go in there and talk to him like that, and it was fixed. But, like, sometimes, again, your boss has more power than you, but they're still a person who doesn't want to be treated poorly. And sometimes you have to treat them poorly to get them to do their job, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I can think of a time I stood up for myself.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's still ultimately his fault, our general manager. I had put, like, a note in the office several times with my email information to get my fucking schedule sent to me through an app that most of the people have, but they just, like, don't set up or even volunteer the information that it exists for new employees because they don't want to take, like, the literally 30 seconds it takes to set it up for you, right?
Yeah.
And so I was fed up after putting my email in the office like 2 or 3 times and talking to a different manager who was there more often. So I just, like, texted him, like, going off and, like, being super rude to him. You remember this?
Yeah.
I was just, like, genuinely being a dick to him. Like, man, how hard is it to do your job? Like, I know that this isn't hard. Like, please, for the love of God, just,
because you need your schedule to show up for fucking work. There's, like, no way around it.
Like, no, not at all. And it's not like, yeah, I didn't tell him directly to do it before this, which was his defense. But it's like, I put the note in the office, and I'm an employee who started and you never set it up, and you're the one who has to set it up. Therefore, I didn't tell you I didn't have it, but you intrinsically knew that I didn't have it.
Yeah.
So, like, technically I picked the wrong target, but ultimately it fixed the problem, and it probably gained me some respect, because he knows that if I'm having a problem that isn't fixed, I'm going to be very fucking rude to him until he fixes it.
Yeah. Again, you just have to teach yourself to stand up for yourself, and that's easier for some people. It wasn't easy for me. Like, it took me maybe, like,
No.
a year of working before I realized, you become mature enough to start doing these things, right? This episode might not be for people who are already established in the workplace. They're, like, older. This is for people who are coming into, like, working in these environments and realizing, holy shit, this sucks. How do I fix this? Maybe we're, like, the older brothers
Absolutely.
for people,
It just helps to, like, strategize, think about, like, the way that your boss has to think about situations.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
If what he's doing is a ginormous inconvenience to what you're trying, like, for what you're doing, then trying to make it more inconvenient to inconvenience you than it is to just do whatever he should have done in the first place. But, like, apply that logic to literally everything that you have to do with a manager.
Yep. You gotta get in their headspace.
Like, it's fucked up. It's almost like you have to manipulate your manager, but, like, the manager is playing the same fucking game with you and trying his best to manipulate you and get whatever extra fucking profit and, like, convenience he can squeeze out of your life force.
Yeah. Exactly, dude.
It's like a battle between, like, two souls, and you're just like, I want to exist here and live a normal life, but he's like, I want a big bonus this Christmas.
Yeah. There's priorities, right? You have to live your life. He wants to make the business run better. Like, what's a higher priority? Or run more convenient to him. Run so for a bigger profit margin. Obviously, there's different, like, priorities here, but your life comes first.
In my experience in the restaurant business, which is literally it's fucking Applebee's, It's not, like, nice. Your boss, at least in my experience, will do literally anything he can in order to not increase labor, not have to buy things, and to, like, make as much possible profit for the restaurant as is physically possible, until literally the second it inconveniences him.
Yep.
Then he'll spend the company's money.
Yep.
The second it's their problem, then they'll spend the company's money to fix it, because that's easier than dealing with it himself.
Exactly.
So, like if you're having a problem that requires the company's money, make it more inconvenient for your boss. Try to make it more inconvenient for your boss than just, like, ordering the part or whatever they need.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes impossible.
Yeah. These are not always going to work.
I literally called code enforcement on my workplace 3 or 4 times because we were illegally dumping oil and nothing was happening about it, and code enforcement in my county didn't do literally anything.
Yeah.
Our sewer system still works from it, and our city, county just was like, yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so here's another example. This is more of the don't be fake example, but this is something that you should get used to doing. So, when I quit Applebee's and I started working at a more upscale restaurant, there's, like, a chef and there's a sous chef, and then there's the chef of your, like, station and all that. So there's much more hierarchy built in, which is honestly a good thing, probably. But the actual, like, head manager, okay, was this guy who was a complete dick. Everyone else, the chef, the sous chef, the chef of my department, amazing people, honestly, great people, really good managers. They actually gave a shit. The actual general manager was just a complete tool. And I know this because I saw the way he interacted with the front of the house people. He never really interacted with the back of the house very much. It was always front of the house. And because my station was sort of in the front of the house as, like, a show. I made pizzas, and so they would watch me make pizzas because it's, like, cool, I guess, right? And
It's like Subway.
yeah, it's like Subway, but you know, there's like a nice like fire pit that people look at, and it makes the whole place smell like pizza. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's like beer in the pizza, right? So
Yeah.
it, like makes the whole place smell nice.
Yeah. And anyways, I've seen the way this guy interacts with people. I've talked to because I'm kind of a fucking nerd, and like I like talking shit about management to my coworkers pretty much constantly. And so I know how they feel about this guy, and I see the way he interacts with other people. Anyways, long story short, he wants to come talk to me because I'm the new guy. I've been working there for like a month. He just doesn't talk to back of the house people. And he wants to come, you know, like just say hi, what's up, and all that, right? Ask me about my tattoo, and just, you know, annoying old man shit. And, you know, I just wasn't nice to him. Like, I had job security. Everyone thought I was good at my job. And so when the head guy comes, like, what is the head guy gonna do? Fire me because I was mean to him? No. And so he comes up,
Because you were
yeah, he comes up and he talks to me, and I'm giving, like, short, one-word answers, and I'm kind of just, like, staring at him. Like, are you gonna continue talking to me? You know? Just, like, being a dick. But,
Yeah.
you know, I'm trying to help people around me, and, like, making him feel insecure. He should feel insecure. He's a dick.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just going to stare at him, give one-word answers. He's like, what's your tattoo? I'm just like, it's just a band. It's just a tattoo. You know, like, it's just, don't be fake. Don't be nice to people who aren't nice to others, you know? Make them feel insecure about how they treat other people, even if they treat you well. He wasn't being a dick to me. And, you know, he kind of just, like,
Yeah, you were just...
he kind of just put his tail between his legs and walked away eventually. Because what is he going to do? I have no interest in talking to you. You are not my friend.
It's not like there's anything to gain for either of you other than he's trying to, like, you know,
Yeah.
punk you or something.
Yeah, he's trying, yeah.
He's trying to, like, flex his authority, right?
Yeah,
Like,
by making me talk to him, and it's like, no, you cannot make me entertain you. Sorry.
bosses do that, and it's, like, so annoying.
Yep. They think, like, you...
They're like, hey...
Yeah, they'll, like, make a big show out of trying to make you talk to them, and it's like...
Oh.
No, I am not interested in talking to you, my guy. And then, like, your coworker you're friends with comes up and tries to talk to you, and you're just, like, completely ignore your boss and talk to them.
That's awesome.
Again, like, it's not like they're gonna fire you for just passively not being interested in them. You know, these are all individual actions, and I would like to talk about some collective actions you can do that are pretty much individual at the same time, and I'll explain. So, at our job, all of a sudden, they wanted us to sign arbitration agreements. And so what an arbitration agreement is it's an agreement that if you are going to sue your job, you are going to do it in arbitration court. Arbitration court is not open to the public, and it is settled by a third-party arbitrator, someone who comes in, listens to both sides, and decides what to do, right? So it's like a secret court sort of thing. It's a lot of places have arbitration agreements. I'm not exactly sure why it is sometimes an industry standard. Like, instinctually, I kind of don't like it because it has to be kept secret. But it's not necessarily like a huge shady deal, right?
It's more like informal though, right?
Yeah,
Like it's not even like it's not even law binding, is it?
if you sign the agreement, it is.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you sign a contract or whatever, that makes sense.
Yeah. But anyways, this was right after COVID, and it was very fishy that they wanted us to sign this all of a sudden. Nobody wanted to sign the arbitration agreement just instinctually, right? And you could either sign it, or there was an opt-out process, and the opt-out process involved sending first-class mail to their headquarters with a send receipt. It was this rather purposefully intricate process to opt out of this arbitration agreement, right? Legally there has to be an opt-out process, but they chose that you have to send physical mail. You can't just not sign it. If you don't sign it, apparently it's in place for you. I don't know the legality of that, but In order to
That's gotta be illegal.
you would think so, but in order to opt out, you had to send first class mail to their headquarters with a send receipt and all this bullshit. And so nobody wanted to sign it. I didn't sign it. So what I did was I took a picture of the steps you had to take, and I got together all of the necessary ingredients to do this. So the send receipt, the first class mail, and I created a prompt or a template. So all you have to do is put your name into it. You know, the template saying, my name, do not want to sign this arbitration agreement or whatever, you know. And I put that all together and I gave it to a bunch of coworkers who did not want to sign it, you know. So this is an individual action I took to make it possible for my coworkers who don't want to sign this but don't want to deal with actually not doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I put this together and I gave it to a bunch of people and we all sent it in. And magically the whole thing went away. They didn't ask us to sign it anymore.
Dude, that's actually, like, the coolest fucking thing, though. I remember this wasn't when I worked there. I remember you telling me about it and being like, bro, that's actually, like, really cool that you did that.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, it was so shitty and such an easy thing from... Because, you know, a lot of people... It was kind of in legalese. They don't want to try and parse through, like, how to opt out of it, you know? So I figured I could do it and I could give it to people to do it. All they gotta do is put the thing in the envelope that I gave them, sign their name on it, and give it to the post office.
Like you said, it's made to be deliberately hard. If you, like, work 5 days a week and you have, like, children you gotta take care of, man, you don't fucking care. You'd rather sign the paper and send it than have to fucking deal with all this dumb shit.
Exactly. So, you know, that was an individual action I took, but it looked like a collective action, more or less, because we all did it. And collectively, we did all do it. So this is what I mean by they can feed off on each other, you know?
Yeah.
If you do something, other people will follow your lead and do that thing.
Dude, imagine working at that office where they got all of those fucking papers. Imagine they probably, like, shit themselves.
Dude, I know. I bet Jerry was like... They were like, Jerry, cut it. Cut that shit right now.
Fire them all. Do not...
Yeah.
Do not let them... Jerry, whatever you do.
I bet he got in trouble, dude.
Probably, man. Like, fuck, that must have been scary. They're like Applebee's trying to unionize? Fuck me.
Gets shitted on. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about is... So we're talking about collective action, individual action. Ultimately, the goal is to have a healthier workplace with your coworkers, right? Maybe with the faraway goal of unionizing in the future. Maybe not. But I want to talk about knowing when to set politics aside, right? Because if you're a leftist like me and Gavin, you know, we look down on people. Ultimately, we look down on poor people who have right-wing ideologies, right? Because ultimately, I think you're ignorant if you're a poor person and you have right-wing, at least economic ideology, right?
Yeah, pretty inherently, I'd say. Like, whether or not... Yeah, pretty much. If you're poor and you have right-wing economic policies, like, no way to go around it. You're pretty inherently ignorant.
Yeah, and so...
At least of the subject.
There's a time and a place to debate politics, but a lot of people who aren't just nerded and their brains aren't broken, they really don't give a shit about politics. They just hear, like, something that their dad or their uncle told them, and they just take it for gospel, right? Without critically thinking about it. And that doesn't make this person a bad person, right?
Not at all.
If you are actively have reactionary politics and you are trying to act on those reactionary politics and you don't like people because of those politics, sure, you're a shitty person. But if you just have this background assumption of American conservatism, you know, then that's fine. And you can still be friends with these people and you can still organize with them, right?
Absolutely.
And so,
like, it's not like a liberal would frame it. You're not working with a Nazi because you're, like, helping another poor conservative who's just like a normal dude.
Exactly. And so, and these people can be your best allies. So, for instance, we have 2 coworkers, Gavin, who are brothers, and you know them, and they're literally the best people you could ever meet. Okay, so we have 2 coworkers. and they're brothers, and they're the best people you could ever meet. They have this background knowledge of sort of conservative politics. They don't talk about it. You would only know this by talking to them about politics if you're a weirdo like me and Gavin who want to talk about those sort of things, right?
Yeah.
But again, if you were in a commune of some sort, you would want no one better than these people. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Like these people you could live with, you could hang out with, like, they're genuinely just good people all around.
Amazing people, yeah.
Yes.
And just because they have this background assumption of conservatism, like, they're still your best, honestly, your best allies against your boss and against, the abuses of the system, really.
100%. Like,
they're the type of people who will work for you just cause, like that sort of thing.
Yes. And who will tell you things, like when your manager is gonna do something, or, like, tell you things that benefit you for literally any reason, right? Like,
exactly.
Like, a slight political divide shouldn't be what keeps you from making strong allies.
Exactly, yes.
If that political divide is, like, a fucking ginormous, like, gargantuan gulf where they literally want to burn down, like, Jewish houses, like...
Obviously, fuck them, yeah.
Yes, obviously, don't fucking be an ally to that person. But if they, like, generally agree with you on most fucking things, but they just, like Gage is saying, have a slight, like, fucking angle to the right, man, who the fuck cares, right?
Who the fuck cares?
Who the fuck cares? That's such, like, liberal, like, identity... I hate the term identity politics, but it's literally, like, liberal identity politic bullshit.
Exactly.
And as leftists, we should not get caught up in that. We shouldn't... That's, like, inherently reactionary, right? Like,
it's exclusionary when our whole job should be inclusionary.
Yes.
Like, seriously.
And who's to say that if like, these people won't learn things from you, right? And change their opinions on subjects if you can, like... Not in, like, a super,
It's not like they're gonna become fucking communist revolutionaries.
No, not in, like, a super fucking, like, conceited way. But, like, if you have a conversation with them on some political issue and you, like, raise a good point, then, like, that's good for everyone, right? Like,
yeah, and so, like, here's an example.
And vice versa. It goes both ways, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, like, okay, our coworker talking to us about, like, hunting and stuff, like... You can learn a lot from him.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not necessarily political, but hunting is kind of political because it's,
It's got like a...
Liberals hate it.
Like a background. Yeah, liberals love to hate it.
Which is silly, but we can get into that maybe in another episode.
Yeah.
So, I have so one example is I was working at Applebee's during the George Floyd protests. And, that was... hard on me for many different reasons because, I wasn't able to participate in a big city or anything. I didn't even go to a protest. I was just working the whole time. You did, which is very cool. But...
I mean, I could have gone to a lot more than I did, I'll be honest. But
that's infinitely more than I did. But that's not the point, right? The point is, that was the talk of the line, talking about the protests and all that. And
yeah.
These brothers have a background assumption of liking cops and all that, as you do as, like, an American person who isn't political. Sort of, not really, but, they weren't on board completely with the protests and all that. And, I had given them my perspective. And, like, because they respect me and I respect them, we can have that conversation. And if you don't ally yourself on class boundaries with these people, they won't hear your political views. And if they don't respect you, they're not going to respect your political views. This is how you change people's mind. And this is another thing that I think is very important for people who maybe you're not trying to officially organize, right? Organize among a party line or organize a union or whatever. But you could, if you gain the respect of people and you tell them one day, I'm a leftist or whatever, or you give them leftist ideas, they're going to respect your opinions. They're going to respect someone. If they respect you, they're going to respect your opinions, right?
Like, even if they don't agree with you, like, they're not going to immediately dismiss the things that you believe if they have a background respect for you and know that you, like, don't think crazy things.
Exactly. So you cannot be exclusionary to these people. they have never heard these ideas before.
Right.
And
it's not like you're being manipulative. Like it's genuinely a good thing to like have class consciousness.
and you're trying to
like,
connect with them more.
Yeah.
It's not manipulative at all.
No, but I could see how someone could hear that and think that, but like ultimately it's beneficial for everyone to like build relationships and to help build consciousness on pretty much anything.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're just... Sometimes conversations get political, you know? You're not always trying to make it... I mean, sometimes I do, but... It's just, you know, when politics come up, if you respect the person talking, you're going to take their opinion more seriously.
Yes. Absolutely.
And here's a really goofy aside, but one of my buddies from, not Applebee's, but the other restaurant I worked at, we talk on Facebook sometimes because he's still my buddy. And apparently they replaced me eventually with an actual Nazi.
Oh boy.
I'm like, what? And so he's telling me, he's not political at all, right? But he's telling me, yeah, we got this new pizza cook, and he sometimes he talks about liking Hitler, and he's like a racist.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, wait a fucking minute, right? And and you know, I've entertained the thought of like going back to a restaurant, for other reasons, but you know, so I was asking him, you know, how's it like back there, you know? And he's telling me this, and I'm like, wait a minute. So I ask him this person's name. I look him up on Facebook, and sure as shit, man, this is an actual fucking Nazi.
Just blatant Nazi.
Blatant Nazi. And I reported their Facebook profile because they had like a meme about like Jews, you know?
Yeah.
And so I reported it, and Facebook was like, sorry, it doesn't violate our guidelines. And I was like, wait a minute. What?
So being a Nazi doesn't violate
Apparently
Facebook's
not,
guidelines.
which I'm
pretty positive it does. They just don't care enough about one report to even look into it with a human.
Yeah. And then I was like, there's no shot I'm going back there. I would legitimately bully that person into the fucking dirt. There's no shot.
If not get into a physical altercation.
It would become physical, yes.
Yeah, that's not the kind of space that you can share with someone that literally wants to kill you, right?
Yeah.
Like
oh, dude,
like a Nazi and a communist in the same space.
It would be it would be so satisfying at a certain point because I could debate that motherfucker into the dirt. And another thing is, when this is important to think about. You know, as a white guy, racist white people just tend to think you're on their side.
100%.
They'll, you know, and if you tell them, like, you know what? No, fuck you for that. What the fuck are you talking about? They're gonna be so caught off guard. It would be amazing. Shocked.
Flabbergasted.
I'll just say,
yeah, like, how dare this person?
Yeah, it would have been very satisfying to go back and just debate them for a few minutes and then threaten to beat the fuck out of them. But there's no reason to do that. But,
no.
You know, yeah, that's just a goofy aside that I thought was insane. But, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, for some context, without going into super specifics, this is like an Indian reservation that Gage used to work at. Like, it's a casino that's on a native reservation.
Yes, and literally all of his direct coworkers are Asian.
Yeah, the fact that they hired him is rather shocking.
Yeah,
that's fucking douchey and stupid.
It's insane. It's like, how are you a pizza cook and you're a fucking fascist? You are the ultimate tool. You are you're like Adolf Hitler's wet dream that he could manipulate you in such a way. And, dude, I saw this motherfucker's Facebook profile. He's an ugly little twink, dude. I would be like, oh, you're the master race, my guy?
Shows up actually in what he would think of as an Aryan body.
Yeah, dude. Just like, oh, God, it would have been amazing.
Shows up as, like, 6'4", like, big dude. He's like, oh, this guy's clearly racist and shitty. And then you're not. He's like, oh, God.
Oh, my God, it would have been amazing, dude. Like, yeah, what the fuck are you gonna do to me? Please try it.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking funny. I feel like that's how it goes a lot of the time. Obviously not all of the time, but like a significant amount of the time, these like Aryan fuckers, they like look more like Hitler than what like an Aryan is like supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know, and like their stupid racist vision that is obviously entirely false anyway, but
They're just fucking thumbs.
you know, they're just like cop phrenology type,
Yeah.
or like twink with like tons of acne, which like, you know, the
Fucking incel, dude.
incel types, you know, like. Also, can we talk about like another silly aside? How cop phrenology is just real. like I'm sorry, but like cops look like cops. Like it's like a thing, man. Like I don't know what it is. What are they feeding these cops in the academy for their like 6 weeks there?
Well,
Like
they're
whatever
like
it is, man. It's changing their bone structure.
5'10", round, big head, fucking Wario looking motherfuckers.
Oh, God, literally, man. Like, fuck. Where are they finding them, dude? Maybe it's like those are the kind of people who are below the IQ threshold, you know,
That
that you need to be a cop.
that's how you know we live in a simulation. They just have to clone these cops.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Where the CIA is putting in a lot of work.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, sorry for that.
no, this has gotten off topic, but it was my fault. But I don't know if I have any more tips. That was kind of all of them.
Kill your boss. No, don't do that. Sorry.
Kill your boss,
just,
figuratively. Kill their ego. Mash their sense of entitlement into the dirt. Line their confidence up against the wall and just blow their brains out.
Cock and ball torture their authority.
Yes. Put on some stilettos and step on to their greed with...
Step on their engorged greed.
Yeah.
Their engorged phallic greed.
I guess this will be it.
I mean, like,
No, go ahead.
you don't, like, bottom line, like, you don't want to, like, play games and, like, try to manipulate people if you're, like, a normal person. But, like, you have to do that to your boss, right? Like if you don't want to just get used and, like, abused in the workplace, you have to try to play the game and, like, manipulate your boss into doing the things that you need.
Yep. It's
like, it's shitty, but your boss is doing the same thing, but he holds your entire life over your head.
Yeah.
So the stakes are just, like, not even the same.
exactly, dude. And like his boss is doing the same shit to him that he does to you. It's like a human centipede fucking funnel of fucking abuse. And you have to survive somehow.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna make you feel shitty, but, like...
It's gonna make you feel
you know,
shitty, but at the same time, it's good.
It can also make you feel incredibly gratified. Like, it can be a very gratifying experience.
Absolutely.
To, like, gain the respect that you desperately deserve.
Just to have some
At your
respite.
workplace. Just like not, I don't even know if it's respect, right? It's like the absolute bare minimum to, like, not be scheduled randomly and to, like, have the days that you need to have. That's, like, so bare minimum, right? And, like, the fact that you even have to fight for that is ridiculous, but you do.
Yeah, and how a lot of bosses just can't talk to you like you're a fucking human being.
No, it's always like they are talking to you to manipulate you.
It's like, man, I'm a human fucking being. Can we treat each other with some modicum of, like, understanding that we are both sentient beings?
No.
No, you're a slave and a robot.
You are here for my profits and for my Christmas bonus, which is coming up, so make sure you work extra hard tonight.
Yeah. So I guess this will also kind of be a shorter podcast episode. I mean, I don't know. I listen to long podcasts.
An hour and 11 is, like, not short. Sorry for cutting.
No, you're good, but we also have to cut out a lot of this.
That's
It'll
true,
probably be
yeah.
about 40, 50 minutes, maybe an hour. But, yeah, I guess this is it. Well, probably, honestly, because this is something that me and Gavin both have experience on. Like, actual real-world experience of surviving in the workplace. So we'll probably have more episodes about this. Maybe, you know, if we ever get the chance to have guests. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you want to engage with us, just do it, because you're probably the only motherfucker.
Absolutely. Like, we don't have enough people engaging to not engage
So
back.
please reach out. But, you know, maybe
Yeah.
this could be something that we incorporate, you know? Like, if we have, maybe one day we have, like, a scholar on to talk about something long shot. But if we do, they could tell us a story about how they stood up against their boss or something, you know? Just an icebreaker sort of thing.
Definitely a topic to keep in mind and to bring up whenever you think of something.
Yeah. So anyways, we will talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.